Hey everyone, it's Asa, and welcome to my video on Frontline Backline Balance. This, as you might guess, simply means to have a good mix of units that are in your frontline and your backline. It's a very important concept, and it's often more important than even playing synergies on your board. The reason is because of multiplicative scaling. A lot of people kind of intuitively understand multiplicative scaling for items, where let's say you add a sword and you're doing twice as much damage, you add 10 swords, you're doing 10 times as much damage. You add a bow, you're attacking twice as fast. You add 10 bows, you're attacking 10 times as fast. So in each case, 10 swords, you're doing 10 times as much damage. 10 bows, you're attacking 10 times as fast, which is equal to 10 times as much damage. But if you have 5 of each, now you're doing 5 times as much per hit, and you're attacking 5 times as fast. So you're doing 25 times as much damage for effectively the same amount of resources. So a lot of people understand that for items. It's very, very similar for frontline and backline. So just for example, let's just say one backliner does a total of 1,000 damage every 10 seconds. A frontliner helps your team live 10 more seconds. So if you have 4 units having kind of a 3-1 split in this way, your team will do 3,000 total damage. But if you have a balanced split, 2 and 2, you're living 20 seconds, you're doing 2,000 damage every 10 seconds. Now you're doing 4,000 total. And again, if you have like the improper split with backline and frontline again, you might live only 10 seconds, even though you're doing 3,000 damage, your total damage is less. So basically, because of multiplicative scaling, making sure you have a good mix is very important. And you can see this in game if you guys have ever played a board that's something along the lines of like 6 bruisers plus 1 backliner. You might notice the fight lasting to overtime, but you're not doing very much damage. So it's a lot more ineffective. And you might have noticed sometimes you might have boards the other way around too, where you have a lot of backliners, a ton of damage, but then your front line dies instantly. Your backline maybe gets like 1 cast off, and then they die and the fight is over. So basically, ideally, you want your frontline and backline to be completely equal. That's not always going to be the case due to what items and shops and upgrades are offered, but some things to consider are items and upgrades. So earlier in the kind of example I just gave, you had 4 units, but I didn't mention upgrades or traits or items. So for example, if you have a 2-star carry on stage 2 and all of your items on it, so let's say you have a 2-star carry with 2 items on 2-5, and all of your frontliners are 1-star and you're level 4, you might want to play 3 frontliners and just that 1 backliner, because that might be a better split than playing 2 unupgraded frontliners and 2 backliners when one of them is an upgraded itemized units. You also have to consider traits and augments. For example, if your traits give you a lot of frontline, then you might want to play more backline units. If your augments and traits give you a lot of damage, then you might want to play more frontline. Basically, you're looking for that kind of completely equal balance between frontline and backline. A lot of times in the later game, it's very difficult to kind of tell exactly what is balanced, but just for example, a lot of the meta comps kind of thrive on this balance where, for example, like 4 bruiser, 4 trick shot Kaisa is like a very obvious example. It's a 4-4 split. Some of the other meta comps, such as like Dryad and Faded, where with a Faded you're linking Ari and Syndra, so that's giving your backline. Your Dryad is giving your front line. Ashe a lot of the times is going to be giving you kind of have like the standard Invoker Ashe board. You've got like Annie, Nautilus, Amumu in the front, and in the back you got like Ashe, Lilia, even some of these other filler units like Lux, for example. They all help out. They all matter. The one exception to this is for melee comps. A lot of times with melee comps, you don't need main tank. The reason is there's no way to guarantee that your tank will die before your melee units get aggro. Generally, unless you solo frontline, but then it slows you down with your melee units having to walk up. So with melee comps, you don't need as much frontline backline balance. Oftentimes, that will kind of translate onto the units themselves, where you want a mix of healing, such as Bloodthirster, or survivability, such as Sterix, or even like Titans give some survivability, as well as a mix of damage. All of these items kind of give like a little bit of both, which is why they're really good on frontline carries such as Lee Sin and Kayn. That's going to wrap it up for this video on Frontline Backline Balance. Thanks for watching.